3-1. Indiana beat New York last night 130 to 121. A brilliant game for Indiana guard Tyrese Halliburton, 32 points, 15 assists, and 12 rebounds. Indiana wins the Eastern Conference if they beat the Knicks Thursday night in Game 5 in New York. Oklahoma City can win the Western Conference tonight. OKC is at home against Minnesota for Game 5. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say.
Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Love you. Love you.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Another Wealthy Wednesdays with Dr. S. Todd Yeary. There is so much going on in the news, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. Dr. Yeary is both a lawyer. He has one foot in the courtroom. He's a practicing lawyer. He is a full-time pastor, and he has a PhD. He is a teacher, and I'm so honored that on Wednesdays he spends his time with us. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward to Wealthy Wednesdays, where the politics of our faith is always our conversation. Hi, Dr. Yeary. Dr. Yeary, you there?
Well, good to be with you, and the politics of our faith is being. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, I can. Todd, while I have you, I want you to listen to this clip.
I can hear you.
I want you to listen to this clip.
Politico writer rolling out his own Democrat shadow cabinet to respond to the Trump administration and fix the party's problem to speak plainly to Americans. So who's included? They're on your screen right now. Names like entrepreneur Mark Cuban, TV host Bill Nye, and comedians Jon Stewart and Nikki Glazer. Fox News contributor and senior writer for the Washington Examiner, Joe Concha, not on that list, but he does join me now. Joe, what the heck's the point of this fever dream?
Oh, Todd, I know it's only May, but this is by far the dumbest piece you will read all year. I mean, for starters, we already had a shadow cabinet running this country. That was called the Biden administration when we had a president whose brain turned applesauce, and apparently all these other people were running the auto pen. And that was just so, inept. But perhaps Bill Nye, the science guy, Nikki Glazer, Letitia James, who may be going to jail, those could be considered possible upgrades compared to what we just saw.
So, Todd, that's what the other side is saying about Senator Slotkin's idea that we should establish a shadow cabinet. I've got a lot of issues to talk with you about. In fact, I wanted to talk with you about a different one first, but we're going to start with that one. Todd, your thoughts on the idea of Democrats mirroring cabinet members and challenging them at every step along the way. Will it work?
Well, I don't know if it will work. What I am concerned about is mirroring cabinet members as kind of the shadow. I'm not sure where that necessarily gets you. I think sometimes making sure that you're clear on your critique and what you're critiquing is more critical. It's unfortunate that the Democratic Party finds itself in this situation where they're having to think of these things, but it just goes to show that they're in such a pitiful predicament that they're having to think about how do they run a resistance movement. Well, if they're just now getting around to thinking that through, we're 120 days into this administration now, then what have they been doing for the first 4 months is really my question. And so part of this is making sure that you understand what you're critiquing and why you're critiquing it. It just says that they really don't have a plan, which is problematic after all that we've seen going all the way back to the November election.
Senator Slotkin even says that we must abandon woke and just be strong. We just need to fight. I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. who, in one of his final sermons, Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, talked about Rip Van Winkle going up a hill. And when he was at the bottom of the hill, there was a picture of King George, I think the third, was on the end. But when he came back down, the often missed part of the story, 20 years later, there was a picture on the end of George Washington. It wasn't just that that Rip Van Winkle went up the hill. It's that he came back after a revolution. He had slept, Dr. King said, through a revolution. The difference between King George III and George Washington was the difference between night and day. In a real sense, the idea of abandoning, waking up in and of itself, which Ms. Slotkin suggests that we should do, is absurd on its face, isn't it?
Not only is it absurd, it makes you wonder, what are they doing? I mean, the fact of the matter is you're a member of the legislative branch, but you don't have to shadow. As a matter of fact, if you're relying on shadowing the government, then you're obviously out of place. And the real issue is framing the issues. You have access to a microphone. You're now the junior senator from the state of Michigan, which is a state that always is in play. You shouldn't have to resort to trying to figure out who are going to be these alter egos to be able to speak to the moment. We've got half of the House, basically, and not quite half of the Senate. There are enough voices to be able to speak to the policy issues and use the levers of government to be able to challenge what's coming in from the administration. We're missing that, and that's problematic.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays, the politics of our faith with Reverend Dr. Todd Eury, when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PUSH to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code PUSH for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text EQUAL to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text EQUAL to 321-321. That's EQUAL to 321-321.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Mr. Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays, building wisdom from generation to generation, the politics of our faith with Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, 1 foot in the courtroom. He is a practicing lawyer and 1 foot in the pulpit, mixing both the moral code and the civil code. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I think you have yourself muted.
It'll help to fix that too, right? When you're trying not to get background noise. But just getting off a plane from Chicago, I was in court there this morning. So we're just kind of doing what we do. And I'm glad to be able to hang out with you on Wednesday.
I appreciate that. Dr. Yeary, listen to this clip from the producer of 60 Minutes.
Longtime 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley recently delivered a commencement address to Wake Forest University. But instead of inspiring the new wave of graduates to follow their dreams or never give up, he went on this rampage about Americans living in fear.
But in this moment, this morning, our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. and insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak in America.
Can we get our money back? Asked the graduates. I kid. Well, he didn't stop there. Watch.
Power can rewrite history with grotesque, false narratives. They can make criminals heroes and heroes criminals. Power can change the definition of the words we use to describe reality. Diversity is now described as illegal. Equity is to be shunned. Inclusion is a dirty word. This is an old playbook, my friends. There's nothing.
Dr. Ure, I'm no fan of using Fox News clips, but I looked for clips on CNN. I looked for clips on MSNBC. I went to every conceivable medium that I thought would be progressive that would cover Pelley's speech at Wake Forest University, which was nothing short of a sign of the times. Your thoughts about the producer of 60 Minutes and his thinking about just how dire the circumstances are confronting the country.
Well, you know, I'm a preacher, so let me start with confession. He ain't lying.
He ain't doing that. Whether it's
Right?
on Fox, MSNBC, or CNN,
Listen,
he ain't
at the
lying.
end of the day, you can call it a rant, but I didn't hear a challenge to the truth of the matter. And so, and the issue with commencement is the acknowledgement that you're now transitioning into the application of what you have just learned, right? So if we're going to move into a praxis mode, we should be able to speak to the reality as it is, not as we wish it were. And so it seems as though whenever there's a challenge, and there is some hesitation, when you mentioned you didn't find it anywhere else, when you have media operations trying to figure out how they're going to settle litigation that has been initiated by a plaintiff named Donald John Trump Sr., it says to you that there are a lot of folks who are navigating and walking around on eggshells because they are trying not to have to deal with litigation. They don't want to deal with the desperation that is facing communities near and far. And it's not just those who fall under the category of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Poor white communities are concerned as well as we look at this big, beautiful, whatever this is that's going through now on the Senate side. A lot of people are going to suffer under this administration. And if we don't start telling the truth about it, then we blame ourselves for being complicit with what we see is coming.
You know, Todd, let me just share with you. I'm so glad that, you know, my producer, Gina Towns, went through CNN. She went through MSNBC, and she found these clips over in Fox News. So now watch this. CNN won't touch that speech from the leading producer of 60 Minutes, CBS. MSNBC would not touch the speech. Couldn't find the clips there. But when Fox took the truth delivered by the producer of 60 Minutes, Pelley, they then turned around and called it a rant. They got to shoot at it. They got to fire at it. And over here where we get our news, seemingly we can't hear the truth unless we go over there sometimes to find our guys speaking, but over there they're being destroyed for speaking. Don't you find that? And I raised this question because you raised the question of litigation and the fear that even began when Trump sued ABC over an interview and the ongoing litigation over the Kamala Harris 60 Minutes appearance.
Yeah, when your legal department is advising you that you should not take something on, it puts a chill. And I think that's really what it is. You have law firms that are being targeted by this administration. And the quid pro quo, if you will, is to agree to give the government pro bono hours. Now, I'm not sure what pro bono work they're going to be doing on behalf of the United States government, but that's a question. When we are facing this reality where to get out of the way of this president, companies are settling lawsuits, right? They are backing away from anything that has to do with First Amendment protections, freedom of press, much less freedom of speech. And we're also seeing that in terms of the speech that's tied to how our educational systems even work. We heard the rant at West Point from this president that went into talking about ridding the military from the burden of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is almost as if, and it's not as if, it's clear that he does not understand how the military, as the United States Army, is coming up on its 250th birthday. And he's going to give himself a parade, while at the same time, he's cutting resources for poor people, Medicaid and SNAP benefits. And that poverty is a condition, it's not a color. And so for folks who think that somehow or other this is the Black welfare mom that they parade around as somehow being a burden to the United States government, no, let's go through Appalachia. Let's take the tour that your father often reminded us of, that at the end of the day, poverty is in the face of humanity. And if we don't humanize these issues, then we leave it to poor punditry to be able to frame what is acceptable and what is not. I think Scott Pelley should be commended, but I think the rest of the media outlets who do not take this up as a cause, they should be shamed.
Back to Sign of the Times. The mayor of Washington, D.C. Allowed, and the city council, Black Lives Matter Plaza to be painted over, which was in front of the White House during the Biden administration. I guess I want to pick your brain on why she now will not mention the fact that Washington, D.C. was a sanctuary city, why Eric Adams is now cooperating with the federal government in terms of rounding up immigrants as a so-called sanctuary city, and nearly standing alone is the mayor of the city of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, looking down the barrel of a federal Department of Justice investigation.
Yeah, so let's talk about DC, right? DC as a federal district is in a bit more, as you know this, you're the congressman. I should be asking you this question. that when the federal government basically is the puppet master, right? You get to control what comes out of the district because it relies upon the federal mechanism for how it operates. And what I think Mayor Bowser is trying to avoid is having the district turn into the plantation. And I say that intentionally because at the end of the day, the threat of removing signage off of the pavement seemed to be a more reasonable alternative to disrupting the lives of people, where at the end of the day, Black Lives Matter is not a slogan on the ground, it is an attitude of the heart. And if we're continuing to do the head and the heart work, as Howard Thurman would remind us to do, then I think we get back to making sure what really motivates us is not what we see. Remember, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Justice has to be an image impressed on the hearts and the minds of the people.
Yes.
And if it only relies upon being brought to some sensory perception, then we really don't understand what justice is all about. There has to be a fire that burns within the belly of the people that cannot be quenched by propaganda that is often manipulated in advance of what we would see almost as military strategy. It is really what we're seeing from this government, that we've got to be really, really clear that we're not abandoning what really causes us when we dream big dreams, when we think about what's there. Benjamin Elijah May says it's not failure that's
but
sin.
low aim. But low aim is the sin.
That's sin. That's the sin.
That's what he says on this question of sanctuary cities and the courage that some mayors have. Brandon Johnson, again, staring down the barrel of a federal indictment, or certainly a federal investigation, and then Marion Bowser saying that she won't even mention sanctuary city. I get that point about the federal enclave, but it just seems like Marion Barry would be staring down that barrel. and he wouldn't have a problem with it. Different generation of leadership.
It's a different generation of leadership, but this is a different generational time. We've not seen this kind of presidency, I would argue, ever. The other part is because the legal mechanisms that would be relied upon to protect these interests have been so eroded that the difference between a Brandon Johnson in Chicago and a Muriel Bowser in DC is that you also have the protection of another sovereign in the state of Illinois, much like you have Wes Moore as the governor of the state of Maryland, and you've got Brandon Scott in the seat as the mayor of the city of Baltimore. By the way, that's probably next. That we have to remember that if we don't have a litigation strategy, not just a legislation strategy, if we don't fight this administration with every arrow that's in our quiver, then we concede the battle because we are too short-sighted to recognize that they are playing for keeps, and they're not going to stop until they have totally reworked what we know to be the republic that is the United States of America.
You know, I have about 2 minutes before we come forward. I woke up this morning, as you know, my obsession has been the 70 million men and women who paid their debt to society. I went hard at Joe Biden. My father went hard publicly at Joe Biden to grant a kind of emancipation proclamation, the full, absolute, complete, unconditional pardon for all Americans who paid their debt to society. The post office, the IRS, the Department of Justice could have still been delivering pardon signed by Joe Biden to millions of Americans had he done so. What an energy level change it would have represented. But instead, this morning, I woke up to the Chrisleys getting out of prison, getting pardoned, leaving brothers and sisters behind, and men and women who have paid their debt to society, who are driving buses now and plumbing and other trade type jobs, trying to fight to get their names back. The Chrisleys are kind of now in the category of Hunter Biden and the Biden family. They have never committed a crime in the first place, according to the full, unconditional, complete pardon. We have about a minute and a half. Your thoughts on that, Attorney Uri?
Well, so one, as you understand, the way a pardon works is you're pardoning a determination of guilt, right? It's not we find you to be, quote, innocent.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Biden's family did not apply for a pardon. I mean, they got pardoned.
Well, I understand that, but to accept it, there has to be an acknowledgement. So let's put that off to the side. Let's look at who's getting pardoned. You pointed that out. I think that's a key point. It's not what you know, it's who you know. We've heard that before, time and time again. And sometimes it's who you're related to and who you're not related to. And so when it comes to issues of accountability and what this is as a signal to others outside of the space, who is this message really for? Then what we see is this development of kind of a counterinsurgency that is being built at the expense of the utility of justice.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, we're going to continue this conversation. Personally, I think Joe Biden didn't read our pardon applications, and I think Jake Tapper and the moral and mental decline of the president of the United States in the last term may be a factor in that. We'll talk about that. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. My very special guest is Dr. Todd Uri when we come forward on KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is responding to reporters' questions about a New York City student, Dylan, who was arrested by ICE.
We don't coordinate with ICE on civil enforcement.
Adams says Dylan was arrested in a courthouse not at his Bronx school. Dylan, who fled Venezuela, had his deportation and asylum cases dismissed. The Supreme Court is sending back a case to reconsider if a Minneapolis cop can be sued for blinding a teen during protests after George Floyd's death. Ethan Marks was hit by a chemical projectile fired by Officer Benjamin Bauer, who claims he was trying to stop an attack when a fellow officer. Lower courts allowed a lawsuit, but the High Court vacated that, citing a recent ruling on police violence. And Cassie Ventura has given birth to her third child, a baby boy, days after testifying against Sean Diddy Combs in his sex trafficking trial. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least likely to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare. And I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare or you'll pay nothing. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-857-8866. 800-857-8866. 800-857-8866.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Wealthy Wednesdays, building wisdom generation to generation, the politics of our faith with Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary. Dr. Yeary, we were discussing pardons just before the break. I am checking on a story that is emerging nationally in the news as we speak, but I'd like you to finish the Chris Lee's analysis while I check this story before I make this announcement.
Well, if you look at what was put forward as the facts, right, $36 million worth of alleged bank fraud, failure to file taxes, there's, again, it goes back to not only what you know, but who you know, and the willingness of whoever occupies the executive chair to use it, recognizing that there's nothing short of an election that's going to hold them accountable to anything that they do under the presidential powers. And so what we see is, whether it's looking at J6 offenders, whether it's looking at the Chrisleys, whether it's looking at some of the other folks that come across the president's radar, whether or not the pardon attorney has a role to play or not, it really is, who is he listening to? And the truth of the matter is he's going to use the power because it's his to use, and he doesn't really care. Now, that's a big difference. It raises some concern because there is no filter, there are no guardrails. But on the flip side, it says then, when there's a Democratic president, why is there such a hesitation to use what is absolute authority in the power of the presidency? And why is it that there has to be such a pleading before the president decides that he's going to take one action or another? He didn't need the pardon attorney to come to him to pardon his son. He didn't need the pardon attorney to come and do preemptive pardons for others. He raised that's President Biden. He reached that conclusion on his own. And so I think what the Democratic Party is wrestling with up and down the ballot is they don't seem to understand what a power analysis really is and how they're going to use the power to advance the interests of their constituents. And so the reason we have this rub is, on one hand, we're offended by what this president has done, but on the other hand, we're kind of impressed because he don't care what anybody thinks. We're trying to figure out, when are we going to get the same from the party that seems to hold us hostage to supporting them, regardless of whether or not they deliver in our interests.
I appreciate that. Let me share with you what the breaking news is. According to Newsweek, Dan Gooding and Gabe Wisnat are now reporting and confirming from a second source that former Chicago gang leader Larry Hoover, who had been serving a life sentence at a Supermax prison in Colorado, has had his sentence commuted by Donald Trump. The commutation, initially reported by the news outlet Notice, was later confirmed by a White House official to the Associated Press, who requested anonymity, citing the lack of a formal public announcement. Hoover was originally imprisoned in 1973 for murder and was later convicted in 1998 for operating a criminal enterprise. In recent years, he renounced his criminal activities and sought a reduced sentence through a formal petition. This is a developing news story and will be updated as more information is available. Donald Trump is reaching into the streets of the Black community, even as we speak, with the pardon power. Larry Hoover was and is considered a gang leader, one of the founders of the Black Gangster Disciples. Those of us who've been in politics, who know politics on the ground and on the streets, know the influence that Mr. Hoover has had for generations, even behind bars. If in fact that's the case, and Donald Trump is trying to take those kinds of risks, these are real sea changes that could touch the streets of urban America. Dr. Uri.
They can, but words have meaning. We appreciate the commutation, but it's a commutation. It is not a pardon.
Correct.
And so we have to be real clear. What is the standard that determines which persons and which offenses get the benefit of the president's pardon power, and which offenses and which persons get review for commutation consideration? Because how you function after that action is taken is vastly different, right? And so we got to be real clear that we're not also holding this president accountable when it comes to, if you're going to use the power and make the case for why the power needs to be used to its fullest extent, whether it's in the conversation of Mr. Hoover or another instance. I would even say, though, it's not in because it's your show, but you. Because at the end of the day, we know that there are other Congress people who had been charged and accused, and that the Justice Department worked out a deal that they would have a non-prosecution agreement if they just worked out paying the money back. So at the end of the day, let's just be real clear. If we're going to read the rules, and your father always has this saying, right? If the rules are clear, the referees are fair, right? All of that goes with it, then we can win. But when the game always has this sliding scale about how politics is played and how we're expected to benefit from it, that's where the frustration comes in. And so while I applaud maybe the president's consideration to use his pardon power in different ways, I would challenge him. How are you drawing distinctions between who gets one versus who gets the other? Because at the end of the day, to give me half a bowl of cereal and no milk ain't necessarily going to satisfy my appetite.
I heard that. Let me be clear, because the information still is not clear. Commutation can be from life sentence to you still have 25 more years. We don't know. Commutation could also mean from life sentence to you go home, but you're still a felon. It also means that it can reduce your sentence, but it does not necessarily mean that it lets you out. He simply reduces your sentence. I know a convicted felon who was commuted for one life sentence, but he had 4 of them. 4 life sentences. The other 3 were not commuted. So people celebrated, but the fact of the matter is he wasn't getting out of prison. So you're right. The language, the words that are used are different. Larry Hoover may have had his sentence commuted. We are not clear as to whether or not he is actually being released from prison with that commutation. And it certainly is not the same standard that the Chrisleys got today. The full, absolute, complete pardon consisted with 1866 ex parte Garland, which says essentially, and this is a summary, the crime never happened in the first place. It restores you to all of your civil rights, except it does not give you back offices or any assets that you forfeited during the process. That's the kind of pardon Hunter Biden got, the Biden family, which had not been tried or convicted, received. And it's the same kind of pardon that I've been fighting for millions of Americans, not just myself, but for millions of people who 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago paid their debt to society and have not been able to fully express themselves or live their lives as citizens. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, our final segment with Dr. S. Todd Uri, 1 foot in the pulpit and 1 foot in the courtroom. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Marina Del Rey turns 60, and you're invited to the party. Join us Saturday, May 31st from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Burton Chase Park for Marina Culture Jam, a free community celebration packed with music, dance, art, and fun for all ages. Experience electrifying performances by Takeo Project and Inca. Take a historic harbor tour, join the Freedom Drum Circle, and hop on a $1 water bus ride. Celebrate culture, connection, and coastline. RSVP at beaches.lacounty.gov/Marina Culture Jam.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest on Friday is none other than the Fixer, Michael Cohen. We're going to be catching up on all things Donald Trump to find out what's going on in Trump universe and Trump world. Also tomorrow, I'm hoping to have Warren Ballentine, Michael Rothenberg, and Dr. Michael Jones back. These men have paid their debt to society in full, and we want to discuss what's going on in the White House. Dr. Uri, before I bring you back on, for both your final thoughts on this subject matter and a word of hope, let me read to you what CBS News is now reporting to your previous point. President Trump has commuted the sentence of notorious former Chicago street gang leader Larry Hoover, who was serving multiple life sentences in federal prison. Hoover, 74, the co-founder of the Chicago gang Gangster Disciples, was already serving a 200-year sentence on state charges in Illinois for the 1973 murder of a 19-year-old neighborhood drug dealer named William Pookie Young, when he was convicted of federal charges in 1997 and sentenced to 6 life terms. 6 life terms. Federal prosecutors had accused him of leading a criminal enterprise to continue overseeing a gang while in prison in Illinois. Hoover's currently serving 6 life sentences in a maximum security prison in Colorado, according to federal prison records. It is unclear how soon he will be released from federal custody, but he still faces the remainder of his 200-year sentence in Illinois dating back to 1973 for Young's murder. And that means he would be remanded to state of Illinois custody, and it is unlikely, running for president, that J.B. Pritzker is going to free Larry Hoover to walk down the streets of the city of Chicago anytime soon.
Yeah, so couple of things come to mind. Number one, I was in Chicago today for a criminal legal matter. 97% of what confronts folks in our community are convictions on state charges, right? The notion of dual sovereign, that the president's commutation of the federal sentence has no bearing whatever on what may remain in the state of Illinois. So let's just be clear. Some of this is for optics and for distraction, right? So he lets $36 million of fraud go free and then gives some paper shuffle that really has no impact whatever on what's going to happen with Larry Hoover. He's still going to be where he is or somewhere else similar to it. And that is what it is. At the end of the day, we've got to be real clear that we have always been up against a system that plays the game differently depending on who you are. And until we recognize that and make sure that when we are playing the game, as you know, is monopoly. This game, look, they're making money off of housing Black bodies. They made money off of trafficking Black bodies. They make money off of not educating Black minds. At the end of the day, we've got to remember that at the end of the day, unless we're getting systemic change, these episodic, periodic signs that somebody is giving us something when in reality it ain't nothing, that then allows them to say, well, I gave you this, what else do you want? When in reality, they letting all their folks off the hook. That's why we've got to make sure there's accountability on both sides. We've got to criticize whoever's sitting in the seat that has that authority and not just give them a pass simply because they want to kind of say, ooh, look what I did. Don't follow the big shiny thing. Just listen to what I say and take my word for it.
Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. I mean, it's like you said, shuffling papers. You're carrying paper, you're on paper. It's a paper game. You give us him, I give you him. We trading each other out between the federal and state systems. And that's ultimately what it boils down to. We're talking about a 74-year-old dude with 6 life sentences, now 200 years or the remaining balance of 200 years in an Illinois prison, kicking the can down the road. The Republican gets to say, I set Larry Hoover free of federal charges. Dear young people in the Black community, y'all see what I'm doing. I'm trying to do things. And the Democrats get to say, no, we're not letting him out. We're going to keep him locked up. And so Pritzker is going to be.
all they did is shift the bill for who's going to be responsible for his upkeep, his health care, his meals, his housing. You started the line, nothing from nothing leaves nothing, right? But if we finish the lyric in the cultural hymn book, this ain't in the one that you'll read out of on Sunday morning. But the next line is, you got to have something if you want to be with me. That's the conversation that we need to have with both sides. If you want to be with us, don't give me, the optics and the idea that if we give you what you want, you might think about taking us out for a meal. No. Number one, I need to know where we're going. I need to know what's on the menu. I need to make sure you got enough in your account to cover it. And at the end of the day, you've got to put up before I put out. Otherwise, we just can't do nothing. But that's just me. That now I know that's not the Sunday school lesson.
It doesn't get any more brilliantly stated than that, Dr. Urey. But let me share with you the optics I learned in this campaign, particularly as it relates to Donald Trump in this particular era, is that they do matter. I mean, this is going to be barbershop talk. This is going to be barbershop talk until everyone realizes that Larry Hoover may not ever walk on the streets of America again. Those who are excited, this is barbershop talk on the ground in Chicago. There are Black gangster disciples in every prison in the United States, every single one. And every one of them looks up to Larry Hoover. So a message has been sent. I mean, I've been in the streets. I've been in prison. I know exactly who Larry Hoover is when you're in prison, for brothers who are in it and brothers who are out of it. I know exactly who Louis Farrakhan is when you're in prison, and how important it was when Sister Claudette would send me a final call newspaper and a mail call. They would call out all my letters from my mama and people who were sending me letters. And then when someone would say, Jesse Jackson Jr., final call, man, the number of brothers who were lined up to get the final call after I finished reading it was a big deal in the joint. He's got street creds and respect like that behind that wall, behind that fence, in solitary confinement, and in these camps across the country. I feel it. I know it to be true. And we're going to be sorting through for some time. I don't think Larry's going to be walking the streets, because now J.B. Pritzker has to make a decision, and J.B. Pritzker ain't going to make that decision. And there are consequences for that as well. Dr. Uri, we have about 3 more minutes for your final word of hope, which I know will be magnificent and magnanimous.
Yeah, I'm struggling with magnificent and magnanimous on today, because as you just framed it, part of the word of hope is listen. My father used to say, in the adage about not get hustled, don't take no wooden nickels. All right, so let's just kind of deal with that the transaction cost for Black lives is on the cheap. Last week, we saw this administration basically pull back on consent decrees about unconstitutional policing in Minneapolis, in Louisville. Memphis hadn't even really gotten started yet. This week, we played kind of the optics game. And in the meantime, we've got a budget moving through the process that is going to take away from the least amongst us and further deepen their suffering. Here's the word of hope, and it's not so much hope in this idealistic, altruistic notion. Hope is grounded in your willingness to have some heart and commitment to make demands for what you deserve. Hope is not me asking somebody else to give me some. Hope is not tied to pity. Don't get this twisted. Hope is tied to justice. Justice comes with a demand. Demand comes with courage, and courage comes with being able to put everything on the line for a cause that you may not see the results from, but it's for your children's children's children. At the end of the day, let's not get caught up on the optics. Let's stay focused on the substance, because at the end of the day, I don't care how many times you take a Sharpie and sign your name. If it ain't changing my reality, all you're doing is coloring between the lines.
Brother, that is as heavy as the Holy Ghost, a sermon in 3 minutes on a Wednesday, 1 o'clock to 2 p.m. in Los Angeles, 3 to 4 p.m. Central Times, and 4 to 5 here on the East Coast. Dr. S. Todd Uri, so grateful to have you this Wednesday, and looking forward to you next Wednesday as well.
Not talk about it, let's be about it. I'll be here with you, my brother. Appreciate you.
I'm looking forward, and I appreciate you so much as well. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Tomorrow, we will have another round of fantastic guests to talk about the Chrisleys. We're going to be talking about what the Larry Hoover and others that Donald Trump pardoned and granted commutations today, what the consequences are and what they mean. And on Friday, we will have none other than Michael Cohen. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to Wealthy Wednesdays with Jesse Jackson Jr. and Dr. Todd Uri. When we come forward, it'll be tomorrow.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.